many people here would love to be making more money than you're currently making right now? Just by a show of hands. I think that's pretty resounding. And how many people would love to have more time to be able to enjoy that extra money and be able to spend it with their family? Yeah, pretty much everybody. So it's pretty crazy that, if I remember 7 years ago, I worked at the Carphone warehouse and I set up my own internet business. And as a result of that, I found myself working almost twice as hard for myself than I did for the Carphone warehouse. And I think the reason for that was because I loved what I did. And I love what I do now, making a difference to other people's lives, helping people, impacting people. And I think one of the challenges that came from having my own internet business was I would lock myself away in my bedroom and pretty much forget the reason I was doing it for in the first place, which was for my family. So I wasn't spending any time with my family. I was literally all over the place. I was on the internet, I was on Facebook, I was on Twitter, I was on YouTube, I was writing blog posts, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? You know, why am I doing this for? And everything just became a grey zone, literally. There was no boundary between my family life and my business life. And I think one of the reasons, you know, and you guys may be in a similar position, where as you're learning all this, it's great, fantastic stuff, and there's so much to learn. You know, a lot of the stuff that Jay has been teaching, a lot of the stuff you'll learn as you go through the internet, there's a lot of it. And you may be finding that there's not enough time for everything. It literally is, you know, blog post here, then you've got Twitter here, you've got Facebook here, you've got someone bleeping you here. You're basically just managing multiple things, and not to mention the fact that you've got network marketing companies, you've got to bring new people in, you've got to train the people, you've got to educate people, you've got to follow up, then you've got family to manage or look after, you've got work to maintain the house. And I think the reason that most of us have gone into network marketing in the first place, and the reason that most people are using the internet, is because of that leverage, the time freedom that it buys. The only challenge is, as we said, is you actually find yourself working a lot harder. I mean, who finds themselves working incredibly hard on their business right now? And I remember it does become this balancing act. And I remember, well, my mom told me, I don't remember this, but when I was 5 years old, I used to get very good at throwing up a ball. And literally I would throw up a ball and I would catch it. And my family would go, Gavin's really good at throwing a ball up. Gavin's really good at catching this ball. And this was kind of my little party trick. And as I grew older, you know, I got better and better and better. And I picked it up again about 10 years ago. And I had 2 balls. Now, just to double check, who thinks here that probably right now, and maybe with a little bit of practice, but you could throw up 1 ball and catch 1 ball? Pretty much everybody here, I think, could do that. And that's very similar in life, isn't it? That we can all manage one thing. We can all focus very good on one thing and just catch it, no problem. But life's not like that, is it? Because life introduces another ball, and then we've got 2 balls. So again, who here, with a little bit of practice, thinks they could throw 2 balls up and catch them? No problem. And I think probably everybody could do that. And it's the same again with life, that we're focused so much on this, all of a sudden another ball comes into our life, or we take on something else. And that's the thing with the internet, is that it's fantastic, but there are so many things to do, there's so many opportunities, there's so many ways to go. And literally, you will then start managing 2 balls, and that could be one traffic method, it could be your business, that's effectively 2 balls. It could be 2 children, if anyone's got children. And then you've got your full-time day job, if anyone's got a full-time job here as well. But again, what tends to happen in life is that another ball comes along out of nowhere, and you've got these 2 balls, you're quite happily juggling them up. Let me try and, it's been a while since I've done it. So you've got 2 balls, and then all of a sudden you've got this 3rd ball, and then you take on something else in your business, or as you go through the internet. Somebody distracts you, there's a little shiny object just over there, and it's like, oh, a new traffic method, let me quickly go over and have a little look, and you know, you click on an email and you're into something else, and before you know it, you've got 3. And you've also got your family life and your children and your cooking and all these traffic methods. You've got your network marketing business. It's like there's funnels here, and now we're juggling 3 balls. And you know, I guess I've been doing this for 10, 15 years, and I think probably everybody here could do this with a little bit of practice. Again, who thinks they could juggle 3 balls with a little bit of practice? It would probably take a little bit of time. But Jay's got a big smile.
I might have to be drunk for that.
But even the best juggler in the world can only juggle so many. Now, I was thinking about what can I do for you guys today, and I was thinking, I'll do the juggling thing, you know, I can juggle, I can explain how it works, and the challenge was I'd only got 3 balls, 3 juggling balls. So, so I went to Sainsbury's and I bought 2 oranges because I thought 3 balls, 2 oranges, and what I'd like is just somebody in the front row, if one of you would be happy just to throw me an orange in a second. As I'm juggling, what I want you to do is just throw that to me, and I'm going to try and catch it and continue to juggle. Just give me 2 seconds, because this is what's happening now in my life, and this is what's happening. I'll give you a shout in a second. This is what's happening in my life and in your life, and there's all this going on, and you've focused on these balls intensely, and then whenever you're ready, just throw that other ball. I can't. There's no way I could do that, and that's what happens in life, isn't it? That's what happens with the internet, and as I say, the internet's fantastic for leverage, but the challenge is too many things. And in life, you're juggling away, you've got everything under control, and then all of a sudden life throws you this curveball, literally, and everything falls down. And they're not balls that fall down in life. What they actually are family members. You know, you can't look after them, you can't be with them anymore. They're telephone calls that you don't bother to return anymore. They're blog posts that it's like, oh, I can't be bothered, I've got no time to do it. It's Facebook messages that you don't reply to. It's team members that you let down. It's all of those little things. And these are these kind of metaphorical balls. So as you go through life and as you go through building up your internet business, I want you just to think about 3 balls and 2 oranges, because that's probably something that you'll remember now and think, hang on a second, I can only juggle so many things. I can't juggle anymore, and if I try to, I'm effectively going to drop everything else, and they're all going to come crashing down, and I'm going to let people down if I try to take on too many things. Now, I remember when, I think it was 1984, I was 7 years old. It was probably the hottest day of the year, so probably not far off what it is today, and I was at a little school in Kings Mountford. It was called the Blandfordmere Primary School. It was near Dudley in the West Midlands, and most of you guys probably realise now that I don't have a very strong Brummie accent. I've lost it over the last 10, 15 years. But I remember sitting in the classroom that day. On the left-hand side, I've got this little girl, Sarah. She's an incredibly skinny little girl. Literally, you would blow on Sarah and she would fall on the floor. And on the right-hand side, I'd got Craig Jones, who was the school bully. He was a horrible kid. He was quite a chunky kid. He'd got this kind of spiky hair. And if you'd have been in that classroom with me on that hot, sunny day, you'd have witnessed something that completely changed my life and may well have changed yours too. So our teacher, Mr. Proctor, he's just over in the corner. He's writing on the board. And Mr. Proctor was probably the nicest teacher that you'll ever happen to meet. But the problem with Mr. Proctor was he had 2 things wrong with him. 2 things that us as children used to take the mickey out of. We'd mock him, we'd laugh at him, and I think as kids, I was certainly not very nice as a little kid. And with Mr. Proctor, he'd got, number 1, he'd got this incredibly red face, and we called him Mr. Tomato Head. You know, and we'd laugh at him, we'd mock him, and I think probably the reason he had this incredibly red face was because of high blood pressure, because we were taking the mickey out of him. The second thing with Mr. Proctor, when he'd write on the board, and I've got to be careful here myself, but when he'd write on the board, he'd lift his arms up, and he'd got this big white lab coat on. And what he had was huge sweat patches under his arms. Now, these were 2 things that we used to laugh and mock Mr. Proctor about. So this hot, sunny day, Mr. Proctor says, in his best Brummie accent, and I've got to do my best now because it's been a while since I've used Brummie accent. "All right, kids, we're going outside. It's incredibly hot in here." And we were all like, "Yeah, we're going outside." He goes, "I'm going to show you something that's going to change your lives. You're going to remember this for the rest of your lives." And we were going, "Yeah, whatever." closer. You know, we're 6 years old, 7 years old. We know everything effectively. He says, right, I want you to stay in the single file walk out in a single file, and I want you to stay sitting next to the person you're next to. So I've got Sarah in front of me, I've got Craig Jones behind me, and Mr. Proctor goes out, he opens the door, and he walks outside. And as we go outside, it's like fresh air at last, because it was incredibly hot in that classroom. Craig Jones behind me now starting to kick me like this, and push me, and punch me, and call me names as we walk out. And I'm thinking, great. This isn't going to be fun, is it? If Craig's behind me and he's going to come into this circle that we're about to go into, and he's going to do that all day. So Mr. Proctor says, right, what I want you to do is get on the grass and sit in a big circle. I'm going to come into the middle in a second, and I'm going to do an experiment that you're going to remember forever. So we go and sit into this big circle. Now I've got Sarah on my left-hand side, I've got Craig Jones on my right. Mr. Proctor comes over, he comes into the middle of the circle. He says, I need a volunteer. And we're all going, yeah, me, sir, me, I want to be a volunteer, I want to do it. And everybody's doing that. And at that point, literally, Craig Jones just elbows me, punches me, kicks me, and just knocks me onto the floor. And I ended up on this poor little girl, Sarah. She's in tears. Sarah's crying. Craig Jones is laughing at me as I'm lying on top of Sarah, and Mr. Proctor just turns round and says, Craig Jones, go and see the headmaster right now. And he turns around to Sarah and he says, Sarah, I'm going to get the first aid for you. And he goes off and gets the first aid. Then he comes back to me, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you know, I'm supposed to be learning something incredible here, and what is going to happen to me? Gavin, it's you. You're going to do the experiment. And I'm thinking, thank you very much, Craig Jones. You helped me to do this experiment. So he says, Gavin, come into the middle, and he reaches into his jacket and he pulls out this object. And I recognised what this object was, but nobody else knew what it was. It's got this long handle, it's got this metal around the edge, and it's got the glass in the middle. And I'm thinking, that's what my nan uses when she reads her newspaper. It was a magnifying glass, effectively. So he says, Gavin, I want you to hold this, and I want you to aim it at the grass. Get down on the floor and aim it at the ground. You're going to see something that's going to impress you. So I kneel down here. I've got this magnifying glass, and all the other kids are over there going, what are you doing, Gavin? You know, you're never going to make it work, and all this. And he says, Gavin, you need to focus it in one area. If you focus it in one area, it will work. You will see. So I'm holding it there for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and nothing's happening. And all the other kids are going, Gavin can't do it, Gavin can't do it. So I'm holding it there for a couple of minutes, and I start waving it around, waving it at the other children, and nothing's happening. All these kids are laughing. Mr. Proctor's like, Gavin, keep it still. Focus it in one place. If you do that, it will work. I'm like, all right, sir, I'll do it, no problem. Because I didn't want to let everyone down. So I'm holding it again and getting incredibly bored. My arm's starting to get numb at this point for about 5 minutes. Nothing's happening. Waving it around again. So nothing's happening. What's supposed to happen? Gavin, if you don't keep it still, you will fail. And I will get somebody else to do it. And at this point, with all the other kids laughing, I went, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to do it. This is up to me. I'm going to make this happen. And this is me as a 7-year-old. So I hold it there, this time for at least 10 minutes. And at that point, I start to see smoke coming out of the ground. And I'm thinking, wow, sir, look what's happening, look what's happening. And he's like, Gavin, keep it there, keep it there. So I hold it there for about another 5 minutes. And at this point, my arm is numb. All the other kids are going, what is going on? What's this? Like, there's smoke coming out of the ground. And then literally, flames started to come out, only a little bit, and at that point he said, Gavin, get out of the way, and he came over, he stomped straight on it and put it out. And he said, kids, did you see what just happened? He said, where you put your focus, you will succeed. Where you put your focus, you will succeed. And we were all like, that's pretty impressive. And all the other kids thought I was a magician at that point. But seriously, guys, where you focus in life you will start to see success. It's just natural, it will happen. Trying to do too many things in too many different areas take you off in multiple different locations. You can't put the time and attention and focus and effort into multiple places. If you've got, when I say multiple things, we can do multiple things, but they've got to line up. There's got to be one after another, which Jay talks about with the funnel. You have one, you drive traffic, which effectively is one batch or one thing. You drive traffic to that squeeze page. I'm not sure of the order that you've got the funnel exactly with yours, but then you drive it to the next, and then you follow up with the people. But it's one after another. It's not like there's 3 or 4 different things going on. And I remember myself, probably about 5 years ago, well, 7 in fact, when I first got onto the internet, trying to do too many different things with lots of different companies and lots of different affiliate programs, and I was at my wit's end, literally. So where you put your focus is where you will see success. Now, what I've got something called the ultimate focus formula that I want to share with you. It's something that I use myself. I've taught hundreds of people this around the web, and it's something that when you implement it into your business and into your life, it helps you kind of, I guess, chunk and partition areas of your life a little bit more, so you can lead a more balanced lifestyle, so you can leverage your activities, so you can set things up and work here and a little bit here and a little bit there, so you have more time to be able to do the things that you want to do and spend it with the people you want to spend it with. So I'd like to share that with you. I don't know where the pens are, Jane, but yeah, just write this down. So the ultimate focus formula. Okay, and there's three steps to the ultimate focus formula. Part 1, or step 1, is, again, something that when you separate your day into this, what I'm going to share with you, will help you stay focused a lot more. Because I think the biggest challenge, and the biggest challenge that I find, is it's so easy to go off into trivia. You're working away on your business, you're working away on a task, and before you know it, you're in your email, then you're on a sales letter, then you're on Facebook, then it's like, oh, what was I supposed to be doing? And then you come back to what you're supposed to be doing. So the first thing that is something I call the 60-60-30 method. 60, 60, 30 method. And essentially it's breaking down or chunking your day into little sections of 60-60-30. So let's say within a day, if you've got, let's say 10 hours to work, or it could even be 2 hours, it could be 2.5 hours, you break your day down into small chunks of 60-60-30. So what is the 60-60-30? Well, the first chunk, this chunk here, represents 60 minutes. And what you do is break down, and I learned this from Eben Paken and Peter Drucker, if anyone's ever heard of those guys before, and this is something I've used religiously in my life and in my business for a good couple of years now. If you break down this first 60-minute chunk into a 50-10, I'll just maybe just add that there, so you do 50 minutes, 100% focused work on one specific task or one specific project. You go, right, what am I going to do for this chunk of 60 minutes? And you work solely on that. And then you take a 10-minute break, a 5 to 10 minute break, and when you take your break, you get away from the computer. You go outside, you spend some time with your family, you eat something, you do a little bit of exercise, but you don't go continue on the computer. And what that does, I think probably everybody could focus for, and I mean, when I say focus, I mean 100% focus. You work, and you probably know that when you get in the zone and you feel it in your body, it's like, I'm really getting stuff done today. And at the end of the day, it's like, wow, that was a fantastic day. Now I've really succeeded. That was because you were in the zone. That was because you were focused and you got that task done. So 50 minutes focus, 10-minute break. Then you do 60-minute focus, and then you take a 30-minute break. And that 30 minutes, again, is to refresh, to revitalise, to go outside, get some fresh air, do a little bit of exercise, stretch, just get away from the computer again and take your mind away from this stuff. Now, what I find sometimes is when I get completely in the zone and I'm writing, I'm being creative, I don't particularly want to take a break here. So I'll continue. And you've got to do that. It's your own judgment call at the end of the day here. But try that. Break your day into chunks of 60, 60, 30, 60, 60, 30, 60, 60, 30, 60, 60, 30. If you want to spend time with your family or your loved ones, if you want to do something else, again, you could. If you wanted to, break it into a 60, 60, 30. Now, what tends to happen, and certainly I've experienced this myself, and I know many other people have when I've spoken to them on the phone, but oftentimes when we're working, we're thinking about other things. We're thinking about what we're going to do later. We're thinking about family. We're thinking about hobbies. So we're not really working. We kind of are, but not really. But the other side of the coin is when we're with our family and the people we're doing this for, and we love things, we've got this phone going off, beep, 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 and we've got Facebook, and we've got email, and it's like, oh, yes, Pippa, for my wife, I'm going to spend the day with you today, I'm going to spend 2 hours with you, and it's like, she's like, what are you doing, Gavin? And this was like 3 or 4 years ago when we first did this, and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this for Pippa, and at the same time, I'm not really there. My mind's all over the place. My mind's thinking about something else. So if you can do this, and even one chunk of that, say, right, I'm going to spend time with my partner today. I'm going to spend time with my friends. I'm going to spend time doing what I do. But I'm going to focus 100% on this. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the second point here is something called time boxing. And it kind of ties in with point 1, or step 1. And time boxing is a way of working, a way that helps you get focused and zone in. So effectively, this is how you'd structure your day and your time. And then within this, you would use this concept of time boxing. And time boxing has got 3 stages to it, I guess, as you would call it. Stage 1, we've all got, and who would agree here that you've got a lot of things to do each day, probably everybody, and we've all got to-do lists as big as, if you write to-do lists, of course, everyone's got a big, massive to-do list, so it's like, how am I going to get all this done today? Well, probably you're not. You're not going to get it all done. So part 1 of time boxing is write the list of things. Write a list of things that you need to get done for that day, that you need to get done for that day. Putting all these other little things on that you might do, or possibly, well, leave that for another list if necessary. But use this concept of time boxing. Write a list of everything you want to get done for the day. Now, the second part of this is where it gets interesting, because who here remembers doing a test, or having to hand homework in, or having to maybe be at school, or just do some kind of exam at some point? And what tends to happen, and maybe this was just me, I don't know, but what tends to happen is people tend to leave it till the last minute. And they're like, oh no, it's tomorrow, I need to do it, quick. I've got 2 hours to do it, I've got 4 hours to do it, I've got 10 hours to do it, I've got 4 days to do it. When you give yourself that deadline, you get it done. There's no doubt, there's nothing that stops you doing that. You get it done. Nothing else gets in the way. You don't go off into trivia, you don't go off all over the place. You get it done. So the second part to this is allocate a time to each task. Allocate a time to each task. So let's say I'm going to write a blog post for the day, and I'm thinking, I've got all this to do, how am I going to do it? What you want to do is allocate a time to each of the tasks and then add it up at the bottom. And I use a piece of software that I've developed specifically for this. So you allocate the time, you total it up, and let's say I give myself 90 minutes for this blog post. So I'm going to do this blog post. So I'm in here, I go, okay, let's say I'm going to give myself 2 hours for the blog post, just for ease of sake for now. But okay, so my first 60-60 chunk is going to be writing my blog post. I allocate myself 2 hours, 120 minutes. And what I then do is, for part 3, I focus 100% on that task. On the task that I chose from this list, I've allocated the time of 120 minutes to writing this blog post, and now I go to work 100% on getting this task done without the next thing that I'm going to share with you. I do it without distractions. Now, distractions are probably the biggest killer that we'll all face, the biggest productivity killer that we'll all face in our business. It's especially working from home. You know, there's a lot of things, and I remember again, probably 3 or 4 years ago, before I'd kind of, I guess, educated my wife on what I was doing. I'm spending all this time on the internet. She just thought I was playing around. I was messing around, and I'd be working away, and like the door would just come straight open. She'd go, "Gavin, can you help me make dinner, please?" I'm like, "Deborah, I'm trying to work. You know, I've got to get this done." And all of a sudden, my brain just went into a different area, into a different zone, and I lost my focus. Now, what you'll find with the internet is it's full of distractions, absolutely full of them. And oftentimes what will happen is people won't even know that they're getting distracted because it hasn't been, it's not conscious, it's unconscious. And oftentimes when I'm coaching people, I'll talk about Facebook specifically, I'll talk about email, I'll talk about Twitter, I'll talk about all these little things, Skype, I'll talk about telephone, because these are terrible. I mean, they're fantastic, but for distraction point, they're really bad. And so let's say I'm working away on writing my blog post, and I've forgotten to close down Skype. I've forgotten to close down Facebook, and I leave it running in the background. So I'm typing my blog post up, everything's going well, and all of a sudden, ding! I start to see a little message, something's flashing on the screen, which takes my attention. Sure. Yeah. So it takes my attention, and all of a sudden now I'm here. What's that Facebook message? Quickly, let me go in there. So I go into Facebook and I have a look. Somebody sent me a message. "Hey, Gavin, check this out. This is a great video." So you like click, watch the video, click, watch, go to the link. Oh, an opt-in. I've got to submit my email address. Hang on, I'm supposed to be working on my blog post. Type in the email address. Before you know it, you've got to confirm your email, and you've gone off in multiple different locations. Does anybody recognise this as something that happens on the internet? No. Sometimes it's one of those hidden things that we don't realise how much it's actually costing us. And I guess if we want to build a business, and if you guys want to build a business, it's being as productive as possible and making the most from it.
The next thing, distractions.
That's it, yeah, thank you. That's all right. See, I got distracted. Eliminate distractions. Okay, so does that all make sense? And this is what I call the ultimate focus formula. Break your day up into small chunks of 60, 60, 30. You can have multiple chunks of 60, 60, 30. Use time boxing to block out time, to write a list of everything you need to get done for the day, allocate a specific amount of time to that task, and then focus 100%, or start a timer effectively. And again, that's what I use my software for, to start that timer, to keep me kind of automated so I don't have to go and keep checking, and then it beeps me every so often to let me know that my time's up. And then I make sure I get that task done, and I eliminate distractions. One thing, because I know as network marketers specifically, the telephone is quite important. One of the things that I do is I screen all my calls, and I guess many of you probably do that as well now. Screen the calls, and then what I'd like to do is something called batch processing. So I'll let's say I've had 5 to 10 voicemails for that day. I'll phone everybody back in one go. It's not like you're doing something here and then all of a sudden a phone call comes in, "Hello, how can I help?" And then 10 minutes later you're working away, and again. So you batch it and you make the calls all in one go. And you can do that for, I mean, it's a whole nother training within itself, is batch processing, how, and by implementing that, there's a lot of things you can get done because you do them all in little chunks. So for example, if you've got 3 blog posts to write for the week, rather than writing them Monday, Thursday, Saturday. You do them Monday, Monday, Monday. Get them all done in one go whilst you're in the mode, and then you move on. There you go.
Isn't this really, and back to school days, this is a school timetable for your work?
Yeah, effectively. And I think one of the challenges that I certainly found was I was never educated in this in the first place. And it's taken me years and years and years to be able to just go, if I want to be more productive and get more things done, I need to be a little, and it doesn't have to be regimented. I mean, it can, you can move this around, and you don't have to stick to it necessarily, but it's just some guidelines that I think could possibly help.
I use, there's a piece of software, I don't know if anybody's seen it, it's called eggtimer.com.
Okay, yeah.
e.ggtimer.com.
Okay.
And just the very fact that you know that that's running and it's going to bleep when it's 60 minutes really
inspires you.
Yes, really there you go.
Fantastic. Does anybody else have any specific questions?
There's a dot between the E and the G. So it's e.eggtimer.com, yeah.
Great. I think I have seen that as well. It's the same principle, and it does, as you said, it does
cook a pinger anyway.
So does anybody have any questions, any specific feedback, or is that all clear? And
you did say you added up the time when you allocated in your time boxing. Apart from making sure you've got enough time in the day to do the things you chose, was there any other reason?
Just to see that I'm not going to go, I'm not going to kind of set myself up for a massive day that I'm not going to be able to stick to. Because what tends to happen is, as you get distracted, you'll find that you've got 8 hours worth of tasks, but there's no way you're going to actually get those 8 hours of tasks done. So it's just focusing bit by bit, and that's the main reason. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Very good.